A FIA World Championship, a World Cup or a World Series, Touring Car World Series, that's got a bit of a sparkle to it. If for some reason, judged by the FIA, they don't think that having 35 near as damn it equal cars in the field makes a World Championship, whatever.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah, World Series.
Well, the UK Series, and they're on about Dominicans. They reckon there's over 500 TCR specification cars being built now.
I know that Jaime Puig and Seat Sport have built over 300 Seat and Volkswagen and Audis.
New Honda's coming out.
Yep.
FK8 Type R, and it looks a real weapon.
Yeah. You've got the Hyundai, you've got the... You know, the thing is that the manufacturer doesn't have to bury itself financially to develop these cars. You know, Honda is paying for this. Honda's not paying for TCR. The team that develops the car, in Honda's case, it's Yas. In the Volkswagen Audi group, it's Seat Sport. They pay for the development. They build the cars. They get the money when they sell them. So it's a business model that works well for manufacturers because you're represented. Sure, Hyundai is putting in the money to develop their car, but they can't run a factory team. They've got to make the car competitive, show it's competitive, and then people will hopefully beat a path to their door and buy it. Because it doesn't matter what the name is on the badge, if it's quick, people will want it.
And the main thing is, I think it's more affordable. So more people can do it, compete. And it's more of a level playing field. You haven't got Citroën coming in, writing the rules, and then going and kicking everyone else's butts, and then running away to do something else.
Clearing off, yeah, to find out that they're not quite as good at rallying as they thought they were. 16.5 points between Ted Bjerk and Norbert Mikelitz. Tom Chilton third in the standings, 1.5 points ahead of Mehdi Banani, who's fourth. Nicky Katzberg is fifth, and he is 8.5 points ahead of sixth position Esteban Guerreri. And in fourth place, Mehdi Banani, and third place, Tom Chilton. Tom's 32 points off the lead. There's only 30 points for the race win. So it is down to Bjerk and Mikelitz. Tom Chilton can't be world champion.
That was quite an interesting opening race, particularly between you and Norby. There seemed to be a bit of exchange, giving away and taking back again. But you do seem to have an awful lot of fight in the car, which is good. You're feeling positive.
Yeah, well, it looked to be quite a lot of fight in there, but not many position swap. So in the end, we expected more, we wanted more. I asked Norby to let me go, and I have a go at the Volvos, but as soon as I get too close, I really killed my fronts, and then I had too much unders here. So then I let Norby pass again and see if he could do something, but it's really difficult. But well, now we're gonna change some little bits in the car and hope for a good race. Starting first is totally different, so hope for a good start, and then we see what we can do.
Well, Esteban Guerreri will start at the front, but unfortunately his teammate Norbert Mikelitz will start in 11th place. So he's still going to be stymied trying to work his way through the field and undo that 16.5 point deficit. So Esteban Guerreri pole position, Nicky Katzberg on the front row, Rob Huff will start third, Ted Bjerk fourth. Bjerk 16.5 points in front, basically just needs to do what he did in race one, follow the cars in front around, and if Norby somehow manages to get up onto his tail, then he'll worry about that then. But basically, Norby needs to win the race.
Well, he doesn't.
He does.
If he gets up to third,
and Björk fourth, it's
and
not enough.
Björk
It's not
is
enough.
ninth, he could do it.
Is that the points difference?
16.5 points. Or if he wins it and Björk has to be lower than fifth.
Yeah.
Fifth or lower.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, the tactics, whether they're going to, Honda's going to let Guerrieri just bolt and go because he's got the speed in the car with fresh air.
Well, yeah, they have to, because they're desperately trying to somehow do something to win the manufacturer's title as well.
The manufacturer's gone, Martin, with three Volvos finishing in front of the Hondas in race one. That's gone, it's finished. So it's whether they want bragging rights of the last race or they actually want to try and bring Michelitz into it.
Except in free practice, 2 of the 3 Hondas had an engine oil leak and spent time in the garage that they should have spent on track. Norby had his brakes.
By the by.
Norby had his brakes seize up in qualifying, so things can happen.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I agree. I agree. But go and ask anybody in Toyota's World Endurance team.
If something happens to Björk, Norby needs to be 4th or higher.
Yeah. And even then, that's going to be the devil's own job.
Well, he
from 11th on the grid.
The top 10 in that last one, didn't he? And you'd have said that he easily sort of tried to make a bit of ground.
The only place he made up was on his teammate. And he'd already got ahead of him at the start. The Hondas couldn't pass anything.
Yeah, it's a good skiers, this scrap again.
Good.
It's a good scrap, this.
We saw good bits of that from on board as well. Now, you know, you could argue that Chilton shouldn't have been allowed to make that stick, but it's
He didn't, though. He dropped behind after that one.
It's the championship. You've got to let them race. You know, he didn't do anything dangerous or dirty. You've got to let them race. Did race. Oh, it was good, wasn't it? I mean, you know, when you pass somebody in one corner, then you've got an advantage. When it takes you an entire lap to get by, and it took him 13 corners before he actually got his nose in front.
In theory, Martin, the cars are identical, aren't they?
Yeah. The only difference between these two cars is how the drivers prefer them to be set up.
Good bit of camera work as well. You can see Chilton just checking, just seeing where he is.
That was good. That was good. And we needed that because there was nothing going on behind them in the midfield at all. We needed that race. Now, my sense is that from what we saw in free practice and qualifying, Guerrieri should basically check out from the front of the grid, but sure, that's actually going to happen. There's Zoltan Zengo, man who runs the Zengo Motorsport team that's running these Hondas. And you know what? I bet he'll be back with next year's regulations. If they turn out to be the way that it is rumoured to be, that'll make life very much more affordable for him. And he's already running cars in the TCR spec as well. Well, Thiago Monteiro here with friends and family. And so, good to see him back in the paddock. And hopefully a winter of R&R, rest and recuperation. We'll see him fully recovered and fighting fit. As we talked about earlier, unfortunate that what seemed like well, a testing accident, it certainly wasn't a trivial accident in any way, shape or form, but you know, something that wasn't racing related, so sort of a slightly odd incident. You know, it's cost him the potential to win a championship. It's cost him a quarter of the season, a third of the season in terms of races that he's not been able to run. But, you know, he's up and about, he's walking around, he's waking up at home every morning with his family and his kids. So there's an awful lot to be very, very happy about right now.
Yeah, head incidents, they can go, it can be horribly wrong, can't it? And it's just one of those, it's a freak thing.
Yeah. And,
accident,
you know,
shouldn't have happened, but it's...
And you don't have to hit your head in a massive deceleration like that for it to have a big effect. Because the driver is by far the weakest element in one of these cars. You know, and luckily, because the car, as he said, you know, the car did its job, it stood up, it crumpled around him, but it crumpled around him, not onto him. And so he survived remarkably well from what was a very, very heavy impact. You know, and that's not where the cost saving is in other forms of touring car racing. It's not because they are less well built or less safe. It's just that they're less extreme. Think back to sort of 80s, 90s rallying. It's almost Group A versus Group A, or Group B even versus Group A. I mean, that's sort of where TC1 is at the moment. It's kind of the Group B of touring car racing. We're going to a more moderate Group A, still full racing cars with full racing brakes and stripped and safety standards as good as anything else, but not quite so insanely aerodynamically expensive. And for anything to survive, no matter how attractive it might be, it's got to be affordable, hasn't it?
It is, because the manufacturers are under as much pressure as anybody else to...
But you know, for the teams and for the drivers and everybody else, you know, I mean, and that's why we're not married to Kylie, because attractive though it is, you know, we can't afford it, mate. We can't afford to be married to a global superstar. So luckily, 2 other unfortunate women took pity on us, and that's the way that works. But I mean, that's the whole deal, you know. It's got to be able to wash its face as a team. You can't possibly go into a championship thinking we could take a bath on this financially. We could lose a lot of money.
Where he just finding the limits, testing his new brakes out. They'll obviously be bedded in, but
he will have fresh tyres for this race, won't he? I wonder whether neither Honda had fresh tyres on in the opening race. DHL pole sitter Esteban Guerreri flying round flat chat pretty much most of the lap on the way out from the pits. On board with the Argentine. Guerrero, don't forget, the first man to win a race this season. There's Thiago Monteiro on hand and watching the action that he would love to have been involved with. Down there with Norbert Mikelit's teammate and a man who was not really a championship rival for the first half of the season, because Norby's season came unstitched quite early on. Unfortunately, that bad luck that he seemed to have shaken off and left behind him has really come home to roost. Not even this weekend, but today only in qualifying. Car let him down, and that's really left him in a big hole.
Yeah, still people asking why Montero is still out, but it's the head injury in testing, and he's still on the aftermath of that. He's getting still got double vision and issues with his eyes, so you can see sometimes just spot it as the camera pops onto him.
Yeah.
But which can be a matter of time. It can heal itself in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Or it can take up to a year. So it's obviously a bit of a slow burner, but we hope Thiago's will be fighting fit and back for next year.
Yeah. And again, the good news is he's up and about, he's compos mentis, but you have to be an awful lot more than just average to drive racing cars at a world championship level. You have to be absolutely, absolutely on it. Cars on the grid ready for the final race of the 2017 FIA World Touring Car Championship, a season where we've already had 9 different race winners. And the man who won the opening race of the year is on pole position for the final race of the year, Esteban Guerreri from Argentina. Nicky Katzberg shares the front row with him, and in third place, Rob Huff, winner in Macau. Alongside him, Ted Bjerk, the championship leader and our champion-elect, you have to think. Ivan Muller, his teammate for the weekend, lies 5th, ahead of Tom Chilton and Mehdi Benani, 6th and 7th, who are battling for the Independence Championship and 3rd spot in the overall title race. Chris Richard will start 8th, ahead of John Philippi and Kevin Gleeson, who claimed his first podium in World Touring Cars in the opening race. Norbert Mikulis, the only championship challenger to Ted Bjerk, starts in 11th, ahead of Tom Coronel, Rio Michigami and Jan Elache. And then Zolt Szabo and Daniel Nagy are the final drivers on the grid. So we started in Africa, we end in Africa. From Marrakesh to Monza, to the Hungaroring, to the Nordschleife of the Nürburgring, to Villarreal in Portugal, to Termas de Rio Honda in Argentina. We went to Ningbo in China, to Twinren Motegi in Japan, to Macau, and finally we end up here in Lusail in Qatar.
Second race, last race of the season, as you could see. It's really hard to overtake. I really try to do my best. And I really try to do my best now as well. Just about doing a good standing start. I hope I can gain some positions and then really to fight for a good scoring position. I mean, the championship fight is still open. Still a lot of things can happen. I know that the chance is very little for me, but as in the first race, although it's really difficult, I will do my best. Thank you very much for your support, especially to my Hungarian fans. Thank you all.
Well, good luck to Norby, and he's going to need it because, Matt, whatever else happens, if he's not on the podium, he won't score enough points to be champion. Never mind what happens to Ted Bjerk. And
interesting, team boss Alessandro Mariani just poking his nose in then, and hang on, we're just going to hear something off Ted Bjerk as well. Ted's obviously being a bit, taking a silent approach. He needs Lord Charles with his hand up his back, doesn't he?
Now. Don't think we need to go there.
Hello, everybody. It feels so good to be standing here, and I have had such a good first race together with my teammates. I'm so proud of Polestar Sign Racing and my Katzberg, Ivan Müller and Nestor Girolami for making it possible to stand here today. Feelings? I don't know what to tell you. I'm just focused on being in my bubble, just keeping what I do best and what I love to do. So it feels really good to be here. And again, I send all the regards back home to my family and friends. Without everybody, I wouldn't be here today. So let's go one more time and just go for it.
He doesn't have to push very hard, does he? But you can hear the sort of slight edge of nerves there in his voice as well. If he didn't feel any nerves, then we really would be needing to check his pulse.
What can go wrong?
Exactly.
They've all encountered it. It's just not fallen Norby's way. But interesting, going back to Norby's interview, we had Alessandro Mariani poking his nose in, making a brake pedal gesture with his hand.
Check the
like
brakes.
He's still got a problem.
Check the brakes.
Maybe
well,
there is a hangover problem from before.
Yeah.
So,
and they changed Esteban Guerreri's brakes as well. So we'll wait and see what goes on with that. Safety car not required in race 1. Pedro Cachero driving this weekend. He's the man who is the safety car driver for the World Endurance Championship. We're going curling. All right, you know, it's a bit early for winter sports here in Qatar, but we'll go with that. Where's the brooms? Come on, let's see some sweeping going on here. Daniel Nagy from 15th place on the grid. Teammate Zolzabo alongside him in 16th spot. Well, it's a lovely evening for it, Matt. Conditions are as ideal as they're going to get here on a slightly sandy surface.
Dropping away a wee bit now, but still nice bit of warmth in the air. Zolzabo managed to behave himself race 1 after qualifying. They haven't had the pace this this year, really, have they? Which has been disappointing considering the Castrol cars have been so strong.
Yeah, well, you wonder how further advanced the Mugen Honda engines are in the factory cars, but also, of course, the driver level has something to do with it. Both guys are young and relatively inexperienced, and certainly very inexperienced at this level. So there's that as well.
I mean, definitely they've taken a major step forward, Honda did, with the engine this year, and that's really brought them into the game. You know, we went to Monza where they thought they were going to get hosed in the VMAX, and they were the weapon. You know, at top end speed. So it's they have really scored that. Whether that's translated down to the Zenga cars, the green Zenga cars, it doesn't look like it's happened.
Yeah, it doesn't, does it? We just saw Yann Lachey 14th on the grid, Ryo Michigami 13th, Tom Coronel here in 12th spot. Disappointing end to his association with Chevrolet. One podium this year, not much of a reward for Tommy. Norbert Mikulits, well, if you'd have asked him at the Nürburgring what chances he had of winning the championship, he probably just would have given you a look and went, oh, not many really. It's never over till it's over, but wasn't hoping for much. And then it all started turning around, and he came here really with his tail up, with a good car underneath him. Unfortunately, fate has conspired against him, and in the end, sometimes that's what makes the difference. Kevin Gleeson, podium in the first race, and he will start in 10th place here. 9th place starter for the last race of the season, the last race of the TC1 regulations, is John Philippi in his Citroën CLEZ. So whatever happens with the rules, it's likely that we won't see a Citroën on the grid again in top flight international touring car racing.
But they are building a Peugeot TCR car, aren't they?
308, isn't it? I think, or 300.
No, I don't think it's one of the weapons of choice at the moment.
85, I don't know, something. Yes, yes. I mean, because as people get more to grips with the regulations, each new car comes along should have a bit more of an insight into what works and what doesn't than the guys that came along first. You know, early adopters never buy the first model of anything unless it's a car, because those are all the best looking ones. It's always the best resolved, and then it gets fudged later on by accountants and sound deadening and other regulations. Tom Chilton leading the independent standings by a hair's breadth and a fag packet now, as opposed to just a hair's breadth when he came in here over Mehdi Banani. And again, in this race, he starts in front of Banani. They are 7th and 6th on the grid. So Chilton with a very fractional edge. 5th place is tail gunner supreme Ivan Muller. Although actually, he did as tough a job holding off Rob Huff as Nicky Katzberg did holding off the two Hondas behind him. So he and Katzberg both did an excellent job.
You'd think after being out the car for a best part of a season, you'd be a wee bit rusty, wasn't it? But it's just like he'd put on an old suit and
he might have been a wee bit rusty in that he didn't go forward, but then that wasn't his job.
But no one went forward, really,
exactly.
Martin.
They shall not
Chilton
pass.
was the only one who really made progress. So
yes, and Lachey got by Michigami, and Chilton and Banani both made progress, but they had 3 slower cars in front of them, and that was to be expected. Not necessarily guaranteed. But now, with the fastest car starting at the front, I think we can expect very likely near 0 overtakes in this race, I'm afraid.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting, the strategy, the way this grid is, because we've got Banani and Chilton in the middle. They're fighting tooth and nail. It's a winner-take-all for the independents. So you got Huffy here. Yep. He's going to be, his tail's going to be up. He's going to, you know, there's a few of these guys, Guerreri, Huffy, Katzberg, who aren't in the championship fight, but will want to win the bragging rights for the last race of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last race of the year, they're going to want it. You've got Bjorg, all he wants to do is stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Just stay away from everybody and look after me.
It's going to be some of the...
I think Muller will be focused on Bjorg.
So
he's doing his job.
They're going to be some of the longest laps of Bjork's life, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but he's got his mates around him.
With nothing to lose from the back, so it's going to be, there's some different strategies all the way up and down, the grid.
Yeah. And for this man, the strategy is very clear. Get out there, win the race. That's all he can do now. And that would be a great way to end what has been, what was a sort of slightly surprise season for him, getting a deal together, probably with the help of series promoter Francois Ribeiro from Eurosport Events, to race in the championship on a full-time basis. Again, like Jose Maria Lopez before him, after being a guest driver in Termas de Rio under the previous season. He came out and ended up winning the opening race. He won the opening race in Ningbo in China as well. And there's a chance that he might get his first ever main race victory here. At the moment, he is probably the most likely to. Nicky Katzberg has other things to think about. Of course, for Katzberg and for Ted Björk, if Katzberg gets into the lead, then Norby can't win it. If Katzberg's in second and Guerreri's leading, Norby could still be on the podium, but he can't. He's unlikely to get ahead of Katzberg. And there's Muller and Björk behind that Norby also has to get by, and Huff and Katzberg and blah,
you know
blah,
something,
blah, blah.
Martin, it could properly kick off in this one because they've got nothing to lose.
But the problem is,
so Bjorg's got to be careful. He stays out of trouble.
Norby
if that lot of the front
progress.
starts scrapping and Bjorg's gets caught up in it.
Yeah. Well, listen, for Volvo as the constructors' champions, and for Björk to also win the drivers' title, all the Citroens have to do is finish. All the Volvos have to do is finish. So I was looking at Rob Huff's car there. Sorry. Doesn't matter if Guerreri wins. Doesn't matter if Guerreri wins. They can still be third, fourth, fifth, and that's more than, fifth, sixth, seventh, more than enough points to win both titles. Now, if they had 3 Hondas in front of them, then it would be time to get your sleeves rolled up. Then it'd be time to let Ivan do some door opening using his decades of touring car experience. But they're not.
I think the 1 minute board needs a bit of TLC, doesn't it?
Bit of a sticker. So let's have a look down the final grid of the year. Esteban Guerreri, the DHL pole sitter. Nicky Katzberg alongside him. Rob Huff starts in third place ahead of title hopeful Ted Björk. Ivan Muller in fifth place ahead of title hopeful Tom Chilton and his close rival Mehdi Benani. They're 1.5 points apart rather. Chilton with the advantage. Then Chris Richard, John Philippi and Kevin Gleeson, fresh from his first ever World Touring Car podium. Norbert Mikulic, the title all but gone, starts 11th ahead of Tom Coronel, Rio Michigami and Jan Elache. And then Zsolt Szabo and Norbert Nagy are the final drivers, Daniel Nagy are the final drivers on the grid. So cars head off on the formation lap for the very final time in 2017. And in 11 laps from now, we will know our champion. We will know our manufacturer's champion, and we will know our World Touring Car Trophy independent champions as well. And we probably will know them realistically in the overall title and the manufacturer's points pretty much at the end of lap 1, because that's where any moves that are likely to be made may well have been made. And so again, I think we might spend a bit more of our time focusing on the Chilton versus Benani battle that's almost guaranteed to rage behind the wedge of blue Volvos.
Yeah, that's definitely going to continue, isn't it? They've both got similar pace. Chilton had the edge in race 1, but I would imagine Benani's going to be checking the data out and talking with his engineers. He's going to want to know why Chilton was faster, how Chilton was faster, and see if he can decipher it. And obviously they're in the same team, so it's going to be open book.
And you know, how much of a change can you make in the repair time and on the grid? A bit of diff preload, a bit of camber change, caster change.
Driving style as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, now it is what's it or bust, isn't it? You either get by him and you win the title, or you don't get by him. And it doesn't matter. You'd rather go out trying than sit behind him and go, oh, no, not quite enough of a gap. You know, that's what Chilton had to do in the first race. He had to be in front to give himself a better chance. And you know, it was a long, tough lap battle between them, but he did get in front. Final formation lap of the season, final formation lap of the championship for Norbert Michelis and for the Castrol Honda team. Thiago Monteiro looked as though he was not cruising, but definitely the favourite for the title, on his way perhaps to becoming world champion at the midway break in the season after the European races. That has turned not to be.
Out the back of that car.
Or is it just dust from the muck on the circuit? And as Thiago's hopes have been crushed, it seems today, not even this weekend, today, so have Hondas. They came in with a good chance of a driver's title and or possibly a manufacturer's title and or possibly both. But that problem for Norbert Michelis in qualifying robbed them of a really big part of their attack. He starts both races from 11th. He made progress up to 9th place in the opening race. And the manufacturer's title now almost certain to go to Volvo unless there is some cataclysmic mechanical failure in all three Volvos. I don't see how Honda can possibly outscore them. And in this race, Ted Björk basically just needs to meander around for 12 laps, not get hit off by anybody, and he will be the World Touring Car Champion. So much of the interest will be between Tom Chilton and Mehdi Benani, who start 6th and 7th and are battling for the Independence title. So here we go, 12 laps to decide the titles, 12 laps in the season, the red lights are on, and away we go. Good start from Esteban Guerreri, exactly what he needed to do to try and get into the first corner ahead of Nicky Katzberg. Jan Ellershey makes a poor start. He's been passed by one of the Zengo Hondas. Rob Huff up the inside of Katzberg. Katzberg can default defend a bit, and ooh, trouble in the midfield. Benani's got shuffled back. Through has gone Norbert Michelis, and Huff and Katzberg at it. Huff's up to second, wants to win the race. Katzberg could afford to defend, but the bigger prize is Volvo winning the championship, which they will do whether he's second or third.
There on Katzberg.
Yeah. So where's Norby? So Chilton trying to go around the outside. Some debris flying up. Chilton trying to go around the outside of Ted Björk, and that's not going to happen. Although if he comes calling and calling hard, Björk's going to have to let him go. Björk in 62.
Björk was just putting his nose down. That was exactly the same corner he had an issue with Muller in the...
Oh, and there's Muller behind. So looking back from Rob Huff, that's Nicky Katzberg, the second blue Volvo, Ted Björk, then Tom Chilton.
Muller in the background, keeping it really tight. Just watching the back.
Yeah. But Muller in the third of the Volvos. Now with Chris Richards sending it up the inside.
Wow.
Has he got fresh tyres on, or has he just installed the I don't care anymore chip? He's gone straight by Muller. Now, is Muller dropping back so that he can hopefully bottle up Norby?
Well,
but he could have done that.
First couple of corner skirmish. Now, whether he's had a hit on the steering.
Has he? Was that a bit of his splitter going off up in the air? And is that why he's dropping back? Now, Norby is trying to get by Mehdi Benani. Benani wants to go forward. Has Norby got by Mehdi Benani? No, he hasn't. Yes, he has. Norby has got by Benani, so Norby will have fresh tyres.
Yeah.
Esteban Guerreri is pulling away from Nicky Katzberg, quicker in sector 1 and 2. Katzberg quicker in sector 3. Across the line they come. 8 tenths is the gap between Guerreri and Huff. Sorry, not Katzberg. Huff in second, Katzberg in third. Not on our timing screen, but on your screens. And Mehdi Banani, big lock up there in front of Rio Michigami. Banani is going backwards, and that's John Philippi. Banani has
looking
gone
very racy in the Chevy. He's almost
good for him.
He's having a look at Chilton now, whether they've got it working, but Chilton doesn't need to get tangled up there.
Okay, so Ted Björk is now moved ahead of Nicky Katzberg, so they're pushing Björk as far up their order as they can to make sure that if Norby comes, then Björk is further up the order.
Well, I think it's probably not to get him away from Michelitz, but to get him away from Chilton.
Well, and everybody else.
Just protect him.
But the further ahead he is, the more work Norby has to do. Norby must finish on the podium, even if Björk's only in the bottom of the top 10.
Yeah, Volvo aren't going to be worried about a race win. They just want, there's a championship to win here.
Yeah, and they don't mind which order their drivers are in as long as they score enough points.
Chris Richard on the move again.
Yeah, Richard homing in on Tom Chilton. Now, this is the last thing that Chilton needs. He's got ahead. Don't forget, at the moment, Rob Huff is the leading independent. He'll get winners' points. Chilton won't. So Chilton must stay in front. Whatever else happens of Mehdi Banani, must not go off, must not get involved in somebody else's accident, must not hit a tyre stack, must keep the focus that he had in the first race.
Tom just needs to keep circulating. He's got to keep it tight.
Yeah. Chris Richard right behind him. This is the battle for fifth. There's Richard in sixth position. Seventh is Ivan Muller, eighth is Norbert Michelis. As he come across the line, Norby's the last in that queue, and he's still 6 cars from where he needs to be to stand any chance of winning this title in the final race.
Oh, was that Richard running her a little bit wide?
Just a little bit. Everybody's locking up into corner one. It's so low grip and it picks up the rear wheel so quickly as they start to make that turn.
Guerreri, fastest lap of the race that time, so he's just eking out on Huff. The wee bit he needs. Honda running 20 kilos heavier than the Citroën this race weekend. Honda and the Volvo, to be fair, which was good coming here with the championship battle to have them on even weight, because it was an even fight.
Exactly, as close as it could be. Honda still seemed to have a much better pace in free practice from Norby, and better pace at the beginning of qualifying as well. And then it all went wrong. That master cylinder problem and some long faces at Honda, I'm afraid. I think both championships, they were trailing coming in here, but both of them are going away. And Ted Björk at the moment will be champion, and so too will Volvo. So
it's almost like Muller's dropped back to curtail any progress from Michelitz.
Yeah, he'll just make sure that the car is as wide as possible, and Norby has no way of getting by, can't make any progress, and that's all he needs to do. Then Ted Björk doesn't need to catch Rob Huff or Esteban Guerreri. Guerreri setting another fastest lap of the race. He's cantering away out front. The man who won the first race, who also won in China, returns to Africa. And he's going to take, it would seem, the second race win here.
It's almost like the inevitable. You wait. The poor Honda guys are waiting for it, aren't they? It's like, you know, you've done a really, really crummy exam, and you've got to wait for the results.
Well, and it's not even that. You know, you've been let down by something outside of, because they haven't. The cars have been superb, but there's one little gremlin somewhere in a brake master cylinder, and that has torpedoed them. And it was never going to be easy, but it was always possible.
I think it's how fast it swung backwards and forwards, because at the beginning of the weekend, we came here, and it was advantage Volvo on the points. But then the Hondas were so fast in free practice and into the first part of qualifying. You've got to go, well, the pendulum swung
properly
way towards the Honda, and then suddenly it's gone back the other way.
And so they had a pretty torrid time in qualifying. They lost Mach 3, and in the races, progress all but impossible here because the circuit just really doesn't lend itself. It's about as easy to overtake here paradoxically, as it is at the Nordschleife, just because there's no straights between the corners. It's just corner, 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 corner.
Well, Chilton didn't do too badly.
No,
in the last one, but
he got by a couple of slower cars.
Guerreri did a class start.
Yep, it was a good start.
Huffy was about even with Katzberg, but then he seemed to get second wind as they got up into third gear. Yeah, he just seems to get the mid-range, and then had a good muscle
Nicky
through
was a little surprised.
turn 1 and 2.
A little surprised to see him
have it.
Yeah.
Oh, he's running in wide there.
Yeah. Huff's going, I'm having this. You can have some dust.
I'd have thought Katzberg would have stuck it. Oh, who was that?
That's what happened to Bernani.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Bernani. Oh, that's really tough. And that's the onboard replay from Mehdi Bernani's car. That was a big hit. And that was Muller's Volvo. That's why Muller's dropping back. Bernani's got a puncture or a broken suspension or something.
He's got something broken, splitter down on the floor.
Unfortunately, yes. Damage on that right front corner. He's got a right front puncture as well, I think. Yes, he has. And that's it. All the championships have fizzled out. Okay, checkered flag this now. That's it. There's nothing left to see. 7 more laps. We all know who's going to win everything. And heartbreak for Bernani, heartbreak for Honda, and heartbreak for Norbert Mikulits. Nothing left to smile about, I'm afraid, in Bernani's side of the Sebastian Loeb Racing Garage. So from here on...
Interesting in the garage there, Andre Adamo, now the main boss of Hyundai Motorsport.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a former Yas chief designer, so he's yeah, that's fairly had a hard time, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, and that's the left rear, the right rear rather. It's the right front that's gone down, isn't it? So it was a big old thump, and unfortunately it was a 3-1, wasn't it? Ivan was on the inside, he wasn't making a move to shut the door.
Bernani couldn't see Muller on the inside, so he was just holding his ground with
and that's really tough.
His will be a long flight home, the same as Michelin's.
Yeah. And you know, every time somebody wins, 15 people are going to lose. But, you know, you don't want it to be taken out of your reach, do you? And unfortunately for Norby, it was something that nobody in the team had any part in. It was just one of those things. And it had such a... and, you know, and again, I go back to that's exactly what's wrong with this qualifying thing, where people are locked in for 2 races. There's no possible redemption. If we'd gone to the old way of doing it, if Norby had got into 9th, he'd have been on the reverse grid, he'd have been at the front in race 2, he'd have had a chance. We'd have had a race.
Yeah, he'd have been fighting tooth and nail. He was
fighting, but he would have been in 9th. He'd have got that front row, or 10th, he'd have got that front row start. We'd have had a chance of redemption.
Martin, he was almost a beaten man before it started because of it.
Well, because he has no...
I'm not saying he was giving up.
No.
But he knew the odds were against him.
Yeah.
If he got a chance of that...
Yeah. And if he could have started then the second race, you know, even if Björk had started race 1 from 3rd place or wherever it was that he would have been, you know, 4th place on the grid, he had a chance of starting and maybe winning the second race. And that's where the whole qualifying thing, where it's double jeopardy, it's wrong. It's just not good, because people pay the penalty twice for 1 error or 1 mechanical problem that's outside of there.
And people get rewarded for qualifying 10th by giving them a pole position.
Yeah. And, you know, for the one time where somebody actually admitted dropping back in a race, we've had years where many more people have paid the penalty for it. And, you know, that's one of the things that I would really like to see change for next year. Whether it is or not remains to be seen. But, there we go. Well, for Norby, Ivan Muller in front of him, damaged car or not, is just fast enough to hold up the Honda. So Norby's got up to 8th place very quickly, and that's as far as he's going, I'm afraid. We've got quicker laps coming up behind as well from John Philippi, Ria Michigami and Tom Coronel. but not sure that they're going to catch. Out front, Esteban Guerreri, 2.1 seconds ahead of Rob Huff.
Yeah, he's backed off a bit now. He's managing the race, managing the car. So nice, comfortable 2-second gap. He'll just be watching Huff.
Wonder how close Ted Björk is going to get to the back of Rob Huff. He's 1.5 seconds, 1.7 seconds behind. Doesn't need to be any closer.
Looked like Muller's splitter, front splitter, was really bottoming out on the way into turn 1 there.
Not enough. Not enough for anybody's
not
liking.
Enough for Norby.
No, not enough to make a race of it. I mean, actually, at the moment, if it was Ted Björk right in front of Norby, it would still be all but impossible to get by.
Well, then he's got to finish in the top 3, hasn't he? So.
Yeah, yeah.
So where do you think we should have the last race of the season then, Martin, for a good race?
Croft.
Knock Hill.
In November.
Keep the sheds happy.
Yeah, keep the sheds happy. Well, I tell you what, if it had been in Knock Hill, they'd have needed snow tyres today, wouldn't they?
Well, press release from British Touring Cars this morning. Full 32-car grid again next year.
Yeah.
Every TBL has been taken, so.
Well, hopefully with a much more affordable format for cars coming into World Touring Cars next year, then there's a good chance that we'll get a sizable increase in grid numbers. You know, there's a whole bunch of people racing in TCR series who have been in World Touring Cars, would like to come back if they could afford it, and there's a whole bunch of people who haven't and would like to graduate, you would think.
Well, it could bolster the World Championship for numbers. It could bolster the European Championship, which has sort of been dying away, hasn't it? It was down to, gosh, 10 cars at one point.
But it then gives you that, you know, possibility to promote yourself. I mean, that's what Norby did. He came from a support race championship. He came from the Seat Leon Cup. That's what Zengo Motorsport did. They came from the Seat Leon Euro Cup. So, you know, we've had a whole host of drivers coming into World Touring Cars from a support championship. I mean, Seat Leon Euro Cup produced half a dozen different drivers, of whom Norby's the one who stuck around the most.
TC1, it just seems to be too big a step, and not so much driving wise, but just financial commitment and what they can justify. And
well, you look at all the teams that are so good in minor singles, not minor, but supporting single-seater categories, you know, GP2, GP3, who not in a million years can afford to race in Formula One because the cost rather than the engineering is so extreme.
Status car at the front, Guerreri under control.
Yep. And opening up the gap, isn't he?
From Bjorg in third, who's not going to want to cause any trouble, is he?
I tell you what, you know, nothing against Esteban winning the race, but you know, if Norby hadn't had that issue, that might be him right now. And Ted might be struggling to get by.
A bit more pressure.
Ted might be struggling to get by Rob, knowing that he had to finish at least second to win the title.
Yeah.
You know, and then we'd have a real nail biter on our hands. It was good that we had most of our championships still open coming into the final race weekend. And you know, we're here in the very last race of the season, and finally we know, before the checkered flag, admittedly, but we're finally in the last race. We know who's going to win this. You know, and where we've had years where we've gone to Macau with 9 drivers in it, and that's been whittled down fairly soon, and we have got into the final race and known, okay, now that's the way that's going, unless there's some cataclysmic disaster. Unfortunately, the disaster wasn't cataclysmic, it was a fairly...
Well, at least we got to the last race weekend this year.
Pick the positives out of that, no question. You know, how many different winners did I say? Not 9 different winners, 7 different winners in the season. I counted them up. Was it 7 or 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
2 Hondas,
7,
3 Volvos.
8, 9 different winners. 9 different winners this season.
Wow.
You know, and you just can't argue with that amount of variety and the fact that the championships remain alive to the end of the season. And hopefully, the championship format that we believe will hopefully be introduced for next season we might have even more potential race winners on the grid, and a whole bunch of different people might get a chance to pit their wits against some of the best touring car drivers in the business.
Oh, looks like Air Lachey's Lada was running right out wide there, just squeezed inside the tyre stack.
And there's the battle for, what's that, 10th place. Ria Michigami 10th, Tom Coronel 11th, Jan Air Lachey in 12th. And the problem that you have with running off wide is that you pick up so much dust on the tyres that you just keep running off wide, and it massively multiplies the mistake, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also what the car does in front of you, running off wide, it suddenly becomes your problem because you're arriving at a beach.
Yeah. Somebody goes rally crossing in front of you, and you can't help it because suddenly there's a whole new layer of sand being attached to the corner in front of you.
Looks like Air Lachey's hazards are on.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? And I'm not sure whether that's... oh yeah, he's obviously grabbed the steering wheel in a hurry in a handful of Oppo,
and he's the wrong button.
Yeah, somehow got the hazard warning lights on. Maybe this is another driver tactic, like flashing the headlights to try and distract Tom in front of him. Tom's got his fog light on, so it seems only fair. High intensity rear light is on. Yeah, he is. Alone in having a high intensity rear light. I'm not quite sure why that's on. Maybe they did have a little bit of a busy first lap and pressed as many buttons as they could find. Esteban Guerreri leading by 3.7 seconds, and the gap is coming down fractionally from Huff in second to Björk in third. I don't think that's because Ted is getting ready to attack. I think that's because Huffy is dropping off the pace a little bit.
Ted Björk a lap and a half away from his first World Championship.
And Volvo's as well, so...
Now, when they were with Walkinshaw, was that a European Championship?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s?
Yeah. Well, they raced against Walkinshaw, didn't they, in European Touring Car Championship, because he had, first of all, they had the 240 Turbo, he had the Jag XJSs.
It was the Eggenberger Volvos, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were running then against the Rovers. Yeah, the 240 Turbo was a brutal beast of a brick. Far too much horsepower for the chassis. You'd see it hit a bump, and the thing would just leap a metre across the track sideways. I mean, it was, yeah.
But weren't the RS 500s similar to that?
Yeah, they were all pretty lethal devices, you've got to say. Pretty vile compared to...
XJS Jaguars, we can go through the list here.
Pretty vile to a larger extent. Tyre technology, damper technology, enormous advances there. And of course, the aerodynamics that you're allowed to use now, or particularly, you know, in this category in TC1, are extreme compared to anything that was used in European touring cars in the 80s. Krzysztof Wozniak on Twitter suggesting that anything other than Macau should be instantly thrown out as an end-of-season venue. I have to say, you know, we've spent so many years going to Macau.
Yeah, I think he's got a good call there.
And the other thing, of course, is that in Macau, everybody stays for the party.
Well, it's great for the...
everybody goes for the party, in fact. The fact that there's a race and a championship to be won quite often is secondary to most of the people that go to Macau.
Yeah, that's a pretty good call.
Yeah. I have to say, you know, having returned there this year again, I'm sure that the championship will be very happy to go back. And of course, the other thing is, the more cars there are on the grid, the more the people in Macau are likely to want you to come back, because the more chance there is of lots of entertainment and excitement. And after the slight fiasco of the GT Cup race, where how many cars restarted? 7 or something, was it, after the 16-car pile-up? Anything where you can get a dozen cars, 2 dozen cars or 3 dozen cars on the grid is devoutly to be wished. 3 dozen cars, imagine that. Yeah, the potential, if they do end up going to TCR regulations, is that you could end up with another situation like we had in the early years of World Touring Cars with Super 2000, where you then get wildcard entries, you know, another 2 or 3 Italian drivers coming in Monza, another 2 or 3, you know, French drivers or whatever.
As long as they don't start piling weight on them like they did.
Well, stick them on the driver, not on the car. And because it's not run by a manufacturer...
Why should you pile weight on? You don't in superbikes.
No, that's true.
When wild cards come in.
That's true.
That's
No, absolutely. No, they shouldn't be. Yes, yes, not for a wild card. No. Because then they're not going to beat anybody in the championship. Well, there's the championship as it is now. Norbert Mikkelitz still 31.5 points behind. Maximum of 30 to be earned in the race. So even were he to win it, well, that would deny Ted Bjerk of a couple of points. So actually, if he went forward and Bjerk was still behind Guerreri and Huff, he'd win it, but he can't get any further forward. Final lap of the race, final lap of Qatar, final lap of the 2017 World Touring Car Championship. Volvo will be crowned the manufacturers' champions. Ted Bjerk will be the drivers' champion. And the independence title will go to Tom Chilton. And the slightly depressing graphic a minute or so ago is that Mehdi Benani won't even now be second as they stand, as he doesn't finish, the only non-finisher in 2 races here in Qatar. Unfortunately for Mehdi, Rob Huff will move up to second in the Independence Trophy race. And unfortunately for Rob, that's a long way further away from being world champion again than he had hoped at the beginning of the season, with what he said was the best car he's ever driven in touring cars. After testing pre-season, he had high hopes that a Citroën would be all that he needed to become world champion again. Unfortunately, there is no second title. There is instead a first title heading its way to the occupant of car 62. Volvo's first full season has been a very successful one.
And they've looked and they've ticked every box, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've gone in they've selected the best driver lineup they could. The car, the engineering expertise, Ivan Muller as driver coach. You know, they've tried to, well, they have left no stone unturned.
Well, listen, if you were coming in, what would you do? You try and hire the best people that you could to engineer it and to guide the program and to give you input. They got Ronnie Hartfelt ahead of the program, who was the head of the program at RML in their glory years with Chevrolet. They brought Ivan Muller in, a 4-time world champion, to advise their drivers and to set up the car. Esteban Guerreri bookends the season, winner of the first race of the year, winner of the last race of the year. And there is the voice of your new world champion.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I was so focused on this moment. Not the aspect part, the driving part. It feels absolutely crazy. So, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much.
Well, you heard from the reticent Swede. Let's hear from the reticent Brit in a moment or two as well. Tom Coronel is the WTCC Trophy Independent Champion. Volvos are the manufacturers' champions. And Sweden's Ted Bjerk is our driving champion. Last Swede to win an FIA World Championship. Answers on the Twitter sphere. Trying to think. Be World Rallycross, wouldn't it? I would think.
World Rallycross, sorry.
Second flag from P2, which puts you independent champion.
Oh, I see. Somebody's going for a haircut. I'm not sure what. Yes, I'm not sure what the bet was there, but somebody's having a haircut.
He's having an influence in French fashion.
Yes. Ted Bjerk, our world champion. Norbert Mikkelitz, the runner-up. Tom Chilton, third in the standings. And Tom Chilton is our independent champion.
Guerreri just showing the pace of that Civic had in clear air, 4/10 up the road in fastest lap than anything else out there. So it's what could have been for Michelitz, isn't it?
Yep, definitely.
Grande ragazzi, grande, grande. Thank you guys. so sorry that we couldn't achieve our main goal. I really feel for that. But well, this is at least a nice consolation. We have the best car. We are the best team. I am sure about that.
Well, he's ended his season, which has been not quite the year that he thought he might have coming in. I mean, to come into Campos Chevrolet in a however many years old car it is now and win the opening race, I think he must have thought, oh, it can only go downhill from here. But then getting the call up to join Yas Honda was thoroughly justified on his previous race performances. And he's really turned in some star turns with them. He won in Japan for them, in China rather, and he has won here in Qatar as well. So Ben Constanduras suggesting that the Middle East and is no longer part of Africa, or Arabia's part of Africa.
Is it the Middle East?
Is it part of Asia? Well, I don't know. I would always have said that any Arab country was part of Africa. Like Morocco, an Arab country, that's part of Africa. Like Libya, like Egypt. And I'm not sure where you draw the line. Can't be on the Nile. Is it on the Persian Gulf? I don't know. I'm saying it's African anyway. I was going to say you don't have many deserts in Asia, but of course you have lots of deserts in Asia. So that's a load of nonsense. Well, I gave up geography when I was 12 to learn German, and that has stood me in better stead frequently trying to quiz drivers rather than to ask them if they can name the capital of Azerbaijan, Baku. So there's Esteban Guerreri, Thiago Monteiro. So he's taken a couple of wins for Thiago. If Thiago had been around to take those wins, he would be world champion, wouldn't he? But, you know, as Murray Walker famously once said, if it's just Formula One spelled backwards. And we allowed him that license. But there is your world champion for 2017. And whatever the series format is next year, whatever the name is of it is next year, let's hope that these guys are back again, because they've been very worthy additions to the series. I'm not sure that Volvo have got anything to come and play with, and trying to introduce something in 6 months, 5 months is going to be really, really impossible. However, if anybody's looking for a driver, Ted Bjerke has got to be on the list. And Tom Chilton, independent champion. In a tough battle all season, he was rarely in front of Mehdi Banani in the points. Ted, they're going to invoice you for that roof. You know that, don't you? And go straight into some Volvo museum, hopefully, complete with dent, dirt, dust, and everything else. Never clean a winning car after it's taken a title. So the race is over, the season is over, the battles have been played out.
You could just see the thickness of the panels when they get the weight all down low and super light up top. It's only
it's got the torsional rigidity of a damp lettuce leaf.
Standing on a piece of paper.
So, Tom Chilton, the independent champion. Well, understandably, in these situations, everything gravitates towards the winners. I always feel this is the most bittersweet part of any season, is that you feel at least as much sympathy for those who were unfortunate and lost out as you do delight for those who claimed the win.
So cool. I'm going. I'm really going. It's not like a trick.
Well, Chilton won that in the first one, didn't he?
Yep.
He rolled his sleeves up.
Yep.
Got stuck in, and Banani had track position.
And so, Tom Chilton, he's going, that's what he's talking about, he's going to the FIA Awards Gala, where he will be presented with his trophy.
So hard, I was going backwards, and the steering was all like this, but I just keep going. Just no brakes, trying to... Thank you.
So was it Tom's car that was the meat in that sandwich with Muller and Banani?
No, Tom was further up the road.
He was further ahead, wasn't he? Who was that camera in the middle?
How does it feel?
Undescribable. It's undescribable. The journey it's
There's Ronnie Hartfeld. And he gives his congratulations as well to his driver. Here's the race result then from the main race of Qatar. Esteban Guerreri, the comfortable winner from Rob Huff, and Nicky Katzberg completes the podium. They will be joined on the podium by Ted Bjerk, who is our world champion, and hopefully as well by Tom Chilton, who's our Indies champion. Confirmation further down the order. Rio Michigami made it up to 10th ahead of Tom Coronel, Jan Erlaché. And Mehdi Banani failed to finish.
So many emotions down here. Esteban Guerrero, congratulations. You are the winner of the main race here in Qatar.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody watching. It was a great race. We decided to make it clean, you know, like push and then see what was happening with Norby. We had a plan B if it was needed, you know, like, but Norby couldn't really go forward very much. So I'm really sorry for the team with a bit of bad luck this morning, losing qualifying for him. But at the same time, great effort for the Polestar Volvo guys. They deserve both championships, so well done to them. And from my race, really spectacular. My Honda Civic was really, really quick. We improved it from race 1 to race 2. We changed some things and it was spot on. So I just cruised, you know, through the race. I was doing a very nice pace, enjoying the last time driving this car. So it was for me a very nice feeling. So I'm really happy. Gracias a todos por mirarnos de allí de Latinoamérica a través de la pantalla de Fox. Gracias a mi familia, a mis amigos, a mi novia, a todos los que me apoyan. Este fue un gran año. Les agradezco por todo el apoyo. A todos los fanáticos también.
Third win of the season. Well done, Esteban.
Thank you very much.
And what a charming chap he is as well to be around. Very quick, very talented, and a 3-time race winner. And in terms of our championship, Ted Bjerk is the second FIA World Champion this year. Last year, Matthias Ekström won the World Rallycross Championship. This year, Johan Kristoffersson. So Bjerk is the most recent Swedish FIA World Champion of the season.
Possibly, I was talking to someone who's just back from Sweden. They're saying they're super critical on speeding over there now.
All right.
Yeah, really hot on it. You can't speed. No one speeds.
Well, that's because they're good law-abiding citizens.
Obviously.
Ted Bjerk, here are the words that you wanted to hear all year. You are the world champion of the World Touring Car Championship 2017. Congratulations.
Thank you. You said it all. It's amazing. I can't even believe it. It's now I can breathe again and say thank you to everybody. This project has been amazing. Coming into the WTCC like a rookie last year and then just keeping there feels so good. All the drivers, they send the regards on the in-lap, so much feelings. And people watching at home in the workshop, supporting us, fighting all the time, even if they are at home. And my family, I love you, jag älskar er, det är helt fantastiskt. Det är helt galet. It's completely crazy. I don't know what to say.
You've been so calm, you've been so focused all season. What were those last few laps like?
Fantastic. Probably some of the best in my life. My mental training together with my coach has played a key role because I was happy starting the race. I was happy rolling out to start of the race, and I felt like there was so much pressure that can come, but everyone around me helps me, mental coach, family, the team. I'm so happy. I don't know what to do. I don't know. It's crazy.
We are absolutely delighted for you, Ted. Well done.
Thank you. Oh,
well, there are no guys in this paddock that you wouldn't want to see be successful because they are all genuine racers. They love what they're doing, and they are fun to be around. And to see Ted Bjerk win it, I'm delighted for him. Heartbroken for Norby and also for Thiago, both who really should have had a shot. And in the WTCC trophy, Tom Chilton wins it by 9 points from Rob Huff, and you really have to feel for Mehdi Banani. No fault of his own. He was in a three-way sandwich, and his car, the one that got broken, and as a result, he was unable to even battle on the very final race to take the Independence Trophy.
Cheeky Chappie is very, very happy, of course, because he came third in the main championship and 9 points clear. You, Tom Chilton, are the winner of the WTCC Independence Trophy.
It's amazing. I'm world champion of the Independence, but that's amazing to win a world championship in itself, but to finish third overall and to get to the FIA Gala. I get to be there with Lewis Hamilton and all these big boys, and it's just like the best feeling in the world, and I'm so excited. I'm going to buy myself a new black tie suit.
When you came into this weekend, did you honestly expect this to be your final result? Talk us through those last few laps.
If I'm absolutely honest, I was just praying that I won the Independence Championship, WTCC Trophy, and I never actually thought I really stood a chance of third in the main championship. I just focused on myself and the car, and actually my teammates started doing different things, and I was just focusing on what I knew and what I was feeling in the car, and I just focused on that. And I just almost buried my head in a book, if you like. And I know my office quite well now, and we just did the right thing at the right time all weekend, and it paid off. And when Nicky overtook Ted for the finish line at the end, I thought I'd lost it. I thought I was fourth in the main championship. But when I came down and they said, no, it's not a joke, Tom, on the radio, you're actually third, I was like, yes! Yes! I was like so happy.
You've said it all, Tom. Well done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah, it's not quite sure why Nicky Katzberg did finish ahead of Ted Björk. Maybe that's just to give him a few more points in the overall standings. But Volvo, whatever, the world champions for manufacturers, and they claim victory in the final race weekend. Again, Honda a little disappointed, I'm sure, with the way that things played out. They didn't really get a chance to fight for it. So the final race of the season, and all the tension coming into the weekend kind of melted away for Ted Björk. He focused on the prize. For Mehdi Banani, contact out of his hands. He was taken out of the independence battle. Esteban Guerreri romped away to victory. Heartbreak for the Moroccan. A delight in the end. Volvo's Ted Björk, and for the team themselves. Well, we had a good battle between the Volvo and the Honda drivers all season long. It was never a yawning gap between the two. Volvo spent a lot of the season with a slight advantage. Honda came back into it in the end. Ted Björk claiming the driver's title. Tom Chilton the independence crown. Volvo the manufacturer's title. So the podium is ready for the final time in Qatar, for the final time this season. And we will corral our drivers. I can already see Huffy waiting to come out. And we'll wait for Alex to get up there and she can do the introductions. Our champion will be there. I can see Tom Coronel with hand gestures all over the place. Tom Coronel again. Tom Chilton there. Hand gestures all over the place. So there's the guys getting ready to come out. So we've got the top three from the Indies. Yeah, because Chris Richard there was in third place in the Indies. And the top three for the main race. So there will be the two podiums. And then we will also have our world champions. They won't officially be crowned world champion until post-race scrutineering, etc., etc. And officially, they will be champion-elect or champion nominee or something or other until they are officially designated FIA world champion in the prize-giving gala. And as Tom says, they get to go with the big boys like Lewis Hamilton and all the other FIA
big
world
little boys.
champions and European champions.
Of the World Touring Car Championship 2017 for the main and final race of the year. In third position, from Polestar Cyan Racing, it's Nicky Katzberg. Please welcome onto the podium our second place driver from allinkle.com, it's Rob Huff. And your winner from the Castrol Honda World Touring Car Team is Esteban Guerrieri. Already on the podium from allinkle.com is our WTCC trophy winner, it's Rob Huff. The Castrol Honda World Touring Car Team, it's Tiago Montero. National anthem for our winning driver, Esteban Guerrieri. National anthem of the Castrol Honda World Touring Car Team. Presenting the trophy to our second position driver, Rob Huff, is Mr. Khalid Al-Ramaihi, Losail Circuit Sports Club General Manager and Vice President. Presenting the winning trophy to Esteban Guerrieri is Mr. Abdul Rahman Al Manai, Qatar Motor and Motorcycle Federation President.
So our drivers receive their trophies. A nice touch for the team to send Tiago up as their rep.
WTCC trophy winning driver trophy to Rob Huff. Once again is Mr. Abdul Rahman Al Manai. Presenting the winning manufacturer's trophy to Tiago Montero is Mr. Khalid Al-Ramaihi, Losail Circuit Sports Club General Manager and Vice President.
Nice to see Tiago back.
And now,
And you can clearly see how warmly received he's been by the rest of the World Touring Car family.
2017 World Touring Car Championship World Champion, it's Ted Bjerg.
Top of the world, Mark. Congratulations, Ted Bjerg. Rob Huff knows how this moment feels. 2012 World Champion. Ted Bjerg, the 2017 World Champion.
And please welcome onto the podium our General Manager of the World Touring Car Championship, presenting the laurel to Ted Bjerg, is Francois Ribeiro. Please all come together for your official photographs. And confetti!
In the museum.
And the reason, part of the reason, the very great part of the reason why he wants to go back in the museum, you saw his